next to each other, buildings which has no ventilation, they have no air, there's no sand, particularly in this cold weather of July. Your children will live in an apartment, they will never see the sun, they'll never get the fresh air. So all this, Mr. Speaker, if I am confirmed, I want to assure this House, and governors must listen to me, and we are going to do an audit. NEMA is going to do an audit of all factories and industries which are established in residential areas, and we will revoke their licenses. There must be order. There must be respect for environment as we build our country.
Sharia, you'll pass. Razo.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairman. Honorable Duale, you are the immediate former Cabinet Secretary for Defense. And defense in our country is a celebrated institution. As you move to environment, if the House confirms your nomination, what are some of the good things that you have seen in defense that you are likely to carry over? Secondly, is the issue of environment. I want to say without benefit of doubt, if the members of parliament are not used in planting trees, in conserving the environment, then that thing is bound to fail, and it will fail seriously. In northern Kenya, currently, the Northern Rangeland Trust, NGOs, are the ones that are being used for conservation, environmental support programs. But at the same time, we have left out KWS and forestry, which is a very serious omission. Going forward, maybe tell us what plans you may have, so that institutions of government are not killed silently by non-governmental actors. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Speaker. The nominee, Honorable Duale, Karibu Bunge tena. My question is that Kenya hosts one of the United Nations Environmental Office and Program in Nairobi at Gigiri. And the people of Kenya, especially at the grassroots level, I doubt whether they can fill this office, and it's a UN office. If approved by this August House, can you tell us how will you leverage on that status, and how will Kenyans fill this office and make a difference in our nation for the betterment of our environment? Thank you.
Nominee.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and honorable members. What do I carry from defense? Of course, I will not carry the guns, I will not carry the arsenal and everything, but from a human resource part, I'll carry the discipline that I have learned in defense. I'll carry the order and implementation of tasks done very fast. I will carry the patriotism they have to the country, and I will carry the respect that they give to each other within the rank and the file, and the teamwork that we had at the defense. Those are things. Secondly, I think on the conservancy, Northern Trust, I think, is one of the biggest. There are many conservancies. Most of them, Mr. Speaker, they are not under my ministry. They are under the Ministry of Wildlife. They have airstrips. But I think working with the other ministries and working with the leaders, working with the stakeholders, even working with some of our security agents, we need to have a conversation on how these conservancies, and particularly members of parliament from the Asal region, on how these conservancies are run, how they are managed, what is the benefit to the communities, how will they behave when there is a conflict, particularly during the drought. Our animals, the animals of the people in the Asal, when there is a lack of water and pasture, they enter. Honorable Asuda will agree with me, in Samburu, there's a lot of conflict. So I think we need to have a more bigger conversation. We need to discuss about the carbon market, how much they are getting, the Northern Trust Fund, vis-a-vis, are they implementing the 40% that the law and the regulations give to the people? Honorable Mule, we are a very privileged country. We are a very privileged because we host UNEP and UN Habitat. These are the only UN agencies in the global south. So it's a big privilege and honor for our country. And in fact, that's why in some quarters, Nairobi is called the environmental capital of the world. And it's the only UN body. And this is where you have the expertise, the knowledge, the pool of experts, the top world experts on environment are based in Nairobi. They advise governments very, very far away from Nairobi. As Kenyans, as a minister for nominee for environment, I want to assure you that that proximity we have to this institution, it must work in our favor. We must use the skilled labor. We must use the experts that we have. We must use the data they have to build our own environmental data. We must use them to build the capacity and the skills of our staff in our country in the midst of environment. We must do technology and skill transfer from the men and women who work. And as the focal ministry to UNEP, I want to assure this committee that I will work very, very, very closely with them. And I'll work also very, very closely with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the two ambassadors, or the ambassador who is second or posted to UNEP and UN Habitat. I'll work with them, that we must make sure that this important institution help us. We are trying to build, lastly, what we call the State of the Environment Report. The State of the Environment Report, a very important report that will come to Parliament. We must leverage on the skills, on the experts who work and who come from globally at the United Nations Environmental Program and UN Habitat.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Nominee Aden Duale, you know, the Ministry of Environment requires a non-nonsense CS like Mishuki. You know, remember when Mishuki went to transport, he cleaned up the public transport system. And when he went to environment, he actually cleaned up Nairobi River. You could even drink the water then. But after he left, he just went back to the bad old days. Now, for us to be able to gauge your suitability, it is important that we make reference to the position that you have held, which we are aware of. And so I have two questions based on your suitability, based on your experience, your past experience. First one is corruption in the recruitment of military officers. You have been in the docket of defense, and from yesterday there was a lot of discussion about how much Kenyans have to pay so that their sons or daughters are recruited into the military. What did you do about these menace when you are CS for defense? And secondly, in the recent demos, when Kenyans were exercising their constitutional rights under Article 37, the military was deployed to Kenyan streets via Gazette Notice 7861, signed by you on 25th of June 2024. Now, unlike police that use tear gas, canisters, batons, rubber bullets, water cannons, the military is known for live bullets, grenades, assault rifles, tankers, and bombs. Now, what was the intention behind sending the military to the streets? Was there a plan to shoot to kill demonstrators?
Mr. Speaker, I'm not John Michuki, but I will be like John Michuki. I can assure the member that I'll try my best. Nairobi River Commission used to be under the Ministry of Environment. Now it's not under me. It's under the Deputy President. But we need to deal with the Nairobi River Commission. The pollution that is going on in Nairobi River Commission, Nairobi rivers, because of the dysfunctional sewage system, which needs to be upgraded. The dumping sites of Nairobi County, all of them, including Dandora, are on Nairobi and Nairobi rivers. So the governor of Nairobi at some stage, and I hope he will listen to me if I'm appointed, he has to look for other dumping sites outside the Nairobi River Causeway, Rivers Causeway. So coming to military recruitment, I agree with you, it's a systemic issue. And I was watching yesterday, the speaker said, the president himself is concerned. But we have agreed before I left the Ministry of Defense that going forward, before the next recruitment, we must sit, we must have a conversation. The way the speaker said yesterday, I was watching him, we must communicate candid to the public, and we must deal with that monster. It cannot be a situation where few people are taken to court-martialed. Kenyans, in their mind, are saying, for you to join the military, and based on the national security sections, is supposed to be the face of Kenya. Kenyans, for them to join the military, they must pay between 400 to 500,000. I think that is unacceptable, if more. That's unacceptable, and it's part of the corruption that I was telling you, which is I think all of us together, the citizens themselves, the anti-corruption agencies, all of us together, we must face on. Why did I deploy KDF? I did not deploy KDF. The framers of the Constitution put Article 241, 3B, and 3C in the Constitution. So Kenya Defense Forces are in the streets. They're in Boni Forest fighting Al-Shabaab. They're in North Rift making sure that we deal with the banditry. They were in Westgate during the terror attack. They were in Garissa University during the terror attack where we lost many people. So for peace, public order, public safety, where the police are overwhelmed, Article 241 3B kicks in the function of the Minister for Defense. By then, me, is once the article kicks in, then I am supposed to do certain subsidiary legislation. I gazette. And Mr. Speaker, all of us know Article 132 of the Constitution obligates the President to protect the other arms of government. He is the chair of the National Security Council. That day, the Office of the Chief Justice and the Supreme Court, as an institution, was under threat, under attack. Parliament and the colleagues sitting here, if KDF did not come to assist the other security agents, God forbid, many members of Parliament could have died, including our Speaker. Parliament could have been burnt. I will not be that irresponsible as a Minister of Defense with a provision of the Constitution. I used the law. And then the House went further the next morning, because it was going on a very long recess. They invoked Article 241 3C. But when LSK went to court, Justice Mugambi, I don't want to discuss more because the matter is still in court, gave orders that I should give and gazette and do a new gazette on the terms of engagement, on how many places, and now I said in the 47 places. Ours was to protect key institution. Parliament is a symbol of democracy and governance. It is the home of the people's representatives. Mr. Speaker, all my life in Parliament, people used to come and present petitions. And any member of Parliament who's outside, near the gate, used to receive and take it to the office of the clerk or the office of the Speaker. I have never seen where people want to come and ban Parliament. So I think I want to thank the framers of the Constitution. I participated, the Speaker participated, many other members participated. I think it's today and that day, 25th of June, I realize how important Article 241, 3B and C is.
Owen.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I would like to ask a question to the nominee, Honorable Duale. Just one question, that this country envisages to have a nuclear plant in a place called Uyombo in Kilifi County. Without due regard to the environmental issues in question, like the delicate ecosystem, the people, and the environment, Honorable Duale, going forward, if you are given this opportunity, how do you intend to treat this threat to the people of Uyombo in terms of nuclear plant in their radioactivity materials and nuclear waste and the hazards that come with nuclear installations? Just that my question. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Owen Bayer. I think it's the same thing I was saying. How did the county government of Kilifi give land? So I want to assure you and this House and the people of Kilifi, if I am confirmed, it will be the first thing I'm going to do, go to that site, make sure all the environmental impact assessments are done, the people have participated, their views collected. And the Speaker, environment is very key. I said Article 70 of the Constitution says, if a citizen feels that his rights have been curtailed in an environmental matter, it says go to the court. Public participation is very important. I will be the first person. I won't wait for you to send, if I'm approved, to summon me to Parliament on Wednesday morning. I'll do, it will be on my table. I'll deal with it.
Murugara. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Duale, there is a very bad scenario that is faced countrywide, especially as regards our riverine areas and the rivers themselves emanating from Mount Kenya, Aberdares, whereby almost half the year now they are drying up. We are told the reasons is environmental degradation, but also climate change is blamed. As human beings, we cannot sit pretty. We must have policies in place to ensure that these rivers do not disappear forever. What policies are you likely to put in place to ensure that we recover these rivers, which are actually the bottom line of our livelihoods?
Thank you, Honorable Murugara.
Ferdinand, let's take two.
Thank you so much, Mr. Duale. If you are actually confirmed by this committee, first of all, I want to thank you, and I will tell you that I think that I've witnessed extensive planting efforts by the ministry in which you have been assigned. Now, to ensure that we retain that, I just want to ask you if it's possible, instead of actually interfering with the planting, what have you, in agriculture areas, is it possible, are you able to agree with me that you can now plant trees along the roads? I say this because I went to Denmark and I was surprised. The roads are all covered because we got 6 meters from the center, and that is an area that I think we can plant trees in all these areas. Secondly, and lastly, I come from slopes of Mount Elgon. I can tell you, when I was growing up, that area, forest was very thick, and it was actually an attraction of the rains. Today, it's being cleared. So what are you going to do if you get this opportunity as a Minister for Environment? What do you want to do to save Mount Elgon And of course, I don't know about Mount Kenya and other places, Mount Elgon, where I saw thick forests being cleared now. What are you going to do?
How many?
Honorable Speaker, let me start with Honorable Murugara. Yes, even at the downstream of where I come from, Garissa, Tana River, you'll find the water level of Tana River, getting it from Abadeas, Mount Kenya, and all that, is reducing. And I agree with you. It's all about environmental degradation. And that's why these 15 billion trees will help us to restore, to regenerate our forests. Forests play a very key role in making sure that our rivers have enough water, they are safe, they're sound. But there's another element where people have put big farms, flower farms, upstream, and use the water. So the water, in fact, is reduced because of human activity in the agriculture. And I think that should be another conversation that we will need to have. Honorable Wanyonyi, yes, roads is part of the, in these 15 billion trees. We have talked to the Ministry of Transport and the Ministry of Roads that going forward, construction of roads, mainly even in the highways, the contractor is obligated to plant trees and nurture them until they grow as part of the contract. You have seen and you have gone in many of the Western world during mainly summer. You think you are driving in a highway, but both sides of the road is forested. This can be done, and we have agreed with the president and other stakeholders, even before I came to environment, that should be one. And the contractors, it becomes part of their contract. Even now, we can still tell the contractors who are maintaining the roads, now we have a maintenance aspect, so that they can do it. Mount Elgon is part of why we should increase from 12.3% to 30% by 20. In all our wetlands, we have 11,000 wetlands. We have 8.8 forest cover. For us to increase, I think we will pick on Mount Elgon and all the areas which have been degraded, we will start do the restoration and afforestation programs under the 15 billion presidential program.
Daud?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want Honorable Duale he has talked about recycling, but we have a problem with recycling that the refuse collection which is done poorly, and then it is gone and put into our forests and wetlands. What will he do if he is confirmed? Secondly, you have talked about CFAs. There are agreements of CFAs, Community Forest Associations, whereby my predecessor, long time back, Honorable David Muiraria, the late, he had introduced the Shamba system, where people could go and take care of the trees in the forest, as well as do shambas, plant and take care. Because there is a problem in our forests, nominee, because there is lantana shrub. I don't know if you have heard of lantana. And that shrub, you cannot remove it. It's so expensive to remove. And the forest associations do remove it when they are planting. And I believe the Ministry of Forestry cannot remove it because the funds are not available. What would you think about that? You talked about noise pollution. That's the last one, Mr. Speaker. You talked about noise pollution, and NEMA is in charge. But Honorable Duale, you know, NEMA, it's like as if it does not have teeth. Because there is noise pollution from bars, from nightclubs, from religious institutions as well. And it's a menace. So how will you handle it if NEMA do not handle it? Thank you.
Mary Massey.
Thank you, Honorable Chairman. My concern is still on waste. You know, waste is a nuisance. I'm wondering what mechanisms or interventions you intend to employ to address the menace of waste, so that we convert it from being a nuisance to a resource. Recycle, reuse, produce, regenerate energy, name it, because it is a real issue. Outline for us those interventions that you will employ. Secondly, I want to pick it from the question that was asked by Honorable Mbui on corruption. You've said yourself, corruption is killing our country. And I remember when we interviewed you on your first nomination, we still raised this issue of corruption in recruitment of officers to KDF. And you promised us here that you're going to deliver. But Honorable Duale, I put it to you that you disappointed the country. During that time, the amount that was being paid was between 300 to 400. But during your time, you presided over an increase from now for 300 to 400 to 700 to 1 million. And as representatives of the people, our constituents report this to us. At some point, even efforts to reach you were not fruitful. You could not pick our calls. So now, my question is, why should we trust you? Why should we believe you? Why should we believe that you are not going to transfer this corruption to the Ministry of Environment? Because even there's recruitment of forest to others. You need to assure Kenyans that you will do something when you get to the Ministry of Environment. Lastly, Honorable Chairman.
You've asked two.
On deforestation.
Okay.
There's a lot of felling of trees, even in public forests. We are saying, let us plant trees. Let us plant. But what are we doing about deforestation? Can I ask the last one that have been requested by the public?
Go ahead.
A member of the public has asked me to ask Honorable Duale, what is your connection with the Juja International Abattoir in Mrima in Juja? It has environmental wastage. I don't know what that means. Probably you can give your thoughts on that. Thank you.
Let me start with something Mrima Juja. Maybe the people who I sell my fattened bulls take to many slaughterhouse. If they buy and take it to our slaughterhouse, that is the only relationship I have. I don't own slaughterhouse. I sell to Farmers Choice. I sell to Kenya Meat Commission. I am a very serious livestock keeper, and I do what we call feedlot. Two, so ask that person, maybe he's looking for another Duale. Let me answer about recruitment. I refuse to pick your call and many other people's calls because of corruption. It's because of the corruption. You wanted me to employ for you people. And many members of parliament will agree with me when even they send me text. I said, please go to the nearest sub-county recruitment center. So I'm very sorry, Honorable Mercy, if I didn't pick your call, I was scared you'll ask me to recruit somebody for you. And that is the level of how I abhor corruption. Two, I think when I went, is the only recruitment that I did under my leadership. The only one. And the speaker said it's a systemic. It was
okay, inform me.
But Speaker, I must agree if I want to be informed.
Okay, point of order.
I remember the standing orders.
I know.
Point of order, Speaker.
Let's hear her.
My call. Honorable Speaker, I was calling the Honorable CS to seek clarification with respect to the concerns that were raised by my constituents, that those who were successful and had reported to the training camp were being chased away over flimsy reasons. And I think I can quote, one of my constituents was told that his testicles are not equal. That is why he's being dismissed or returned from the training camp. So I wanted to seek clarification from the CS to tell me what are the guidelines for one to be recruited. Somebody who is successful, he has already reported and is being chased away. I wanted it to secure that slot so that my constituents does not lose it as a representative of the people of Teso South.
Mr. Speaker.
Oh, yes, what's your point of order?
Honestly,
Okay, Mary.
it was very sad indeed. And my constituent lost that slot because I could not get the CS to clarify.
We hear you. Yes.
In fact, I had to look for a chairman of a committee to call the CS on my behalf because I thought because I'm a small person, he can't pick mine.
You are an
He
MP.
actually picked, but I was not helped. I was not helped. I am speaking on behalf of the people of Teso South.
Good. But you are vetting him on behalf of Kenyans.
Yes.
Yes, on behalf of Kenyans.
Yes.
And it did not only happen to Teso South. Many Kenyans were returned from the training camp. And we are told those slots were sold again to some waiting rich guys with 1,700,000. It cannot continue. And we made it very clear to the CS nominee for defense that it should not repeat itself next time.
Yes, Junet.
Mr. Speaker, I want to sympathize with my colleague. And that issue has been rampant, people complaining. But the only thing I'm wondering with is if the CS of Defense by then could do measurement of testicles. It's what I don't know. That's what I don't know.
Mr. Speaker, let me, because it's Mr. Speaker, let me make it very clear that the grounds given for the rejection of that recruit from Teso South is valid. Next year, if such a person comes, he will not be recruited into the Kenya Defense Force. Mr. Speaker, Kenya Defense Forces recruitment is different from the recruitment of the police. When people are recruited at the sub-counties and they come, a very serious medical checks takes place. A number of people are sent because of medical ailments. And I think the former Vice Chief of Defense...
unequal testicles ailments.
Yeah, there were people...
Women can know that, Chair.
Mr. Speaker, I think if you allow me to finish, there are many. The testicle that I want to go to is one of them. There are many, and the chairman of defense will agree. They measure.
Point of order.
Let me finish before the point of order. Mr. Speaker, there are many colleagues. There are many leaders who sent me why their pastor has been chased. And in 10 minutes, the leadership of KDF could give me 1, 2, 3, 4 reasons, measurements including. So I am sure the next.
Women to assist them
not only on this. So, Mr. Speaker, there are certain criteria. There are many, and those who leave, they are not replaced. And I think let us not discuss, with your permission, the Kenya Defense Forces in a very negative. They have a special place in that. But the chairman of defense can call the generals in camera, and you are now talking about testicles. They will tell you something about even the teeth. They will tell you many things. And some of these things is because when you go, the training of the Kenya Defense Forces is so vigorous that you don't risk to take somebody who will die in the course of the training. So don't compare it with how the police are trained. Don't compare it with how the Kenya prisoners are trained. But I am sure the information, the reasons why many, including my sister, Mheshimiwa Mary Emase. And please, going forward, if it was in camera, Mr. Speaker, I will even tell you more. But now that it's in public, I don't want to say more.
What's your point of order?
Point of order, Mr. Speaker. You know, the issue raised by Honorable Emase is something that is out there in the public. Many Kenyans complaining about. Sometimes they think those are flimsy reasons why they are not taken. And I could understand maybe someone has squinted eyes because of shooting and, you know, flat foot, maybe because of running. I'm really wondering why, if what work testicles would really have to do with joining the disciplined forces. So I don't think we should belabor, but you don't take it lightly that there are Kenyans who are raising concerns on the reasons why they are not taken to disciplined forces.
Point of order.
Yes,
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, sir. With tremendous respect to Honorable Duale. And let the army hear this. It's very important. We know the historical background of the set pieces that were given in army recruitment, including teeth. It is there to bite bullets at a certain point in time in history. Today, they do not bite bullets. That's why you hear that saying, you will have to bite the bullet, because the Indians were refusing to do it. So you had to have teeth so that you could bite the bullet. We required tall people so that they would see enemies from a distance. Today, you don't have to do that. Because if that was the case, the Chinese and the Japanese would have a challenge. Eventually, such things became disqualified. I think the whole code needs to be revised so that we do not have human rights abuses. But they are not even abuses. They are excuses that the army is using so that it is able to bar some Kenyans from joining the forces, and, as we are saying, so that other people can actually get the slots. So surely the army must open up on this.
Point.
Thank you.
Let's not escalate this.
Okay.
For avoidance of doubt, Honorable Duale, I also have a child who was sent away for exactly the same reasons as Mary Masses.
Your Excellency, I think just to give the way forward.
Not my child,
Because
but not my son, but a child in my neighborhood.
Your Excellency,
Yes.
Speaker, you have, because of
And you remember I told you
yes,
about it.
Yes, I think the leaders are raising very good valid.
Yes, Dawood, what is it?
You know, we have talked about men only, but even women are discriminated against. When they do a test, pregnancy test, they do not have anything. But once they go there, I don't know where it comes from, they have a pregnancy. And it's not true.
Anyway, let the nominee answer the question,
Yes.
and we move to something else.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I think because the leaders are raising very important and they don't have the information, Mr. Speaker, under your direction, we have a very robust, good leader, head of the military health department called Major General Nganga, through the chair of defense. I think you can call him to Akamkunji, and he lists the conditions which disqualifies. I think because what these are raising is public knowledge. Even I think they should even go to the media and they should sensitize the public. And I think is something we have discussed.
Focus on your environment.
So, no, let me go to. I'm no longer there, so
yes.
Yes, next minister will deal with it if approved.
Yes.
Speaker, Honorable Dawood talked about waste management. Waste management is a serious issue in our country. Mr. Speaker, why do I say so? The law is there, the regulations are there, county governments are not enforcing. NEMA, waste management in the first place, Mr. Speaker, is a devolved function. All that as we do is to support in terms of regulatory powers. But waste management will be something, if I'm approved, that I will take it seriously. From our homes, to the trucks that carry, to the dam sites, the Dandora dam site, the one in Kachok, I think called in Kisumu, the whole environment is polluted, the air is polluted, the water is polluted. The law says you must color the bags, you must differentiate from the homes. Our homes have a responsibility. There must be designated bins in all our public places. So, Speaker, one of the things that I want to introduce, if you approve me, is that even public transport must have a bin in the buses. You know, public places like even the parliament must have those two different. In the malls, there must be different being the one for the organic wet, the one for the dry. But public waste management, which is a devolved function, Mr. Speaker, is an area that I think we need to deal with.
A nightmare.
A nightmare. Number two, I think the Shamba system, the community forest association are working very well. Some are abusing the law. We have now put in place what we call the community forest association management plan, where they will help us which part of the forest with a proper plan they can graze, and which part of the forest they will help us and protect, and we will use. But
are you aware that your predecessor announced that there will be a Shamba system, and shortly thereafter, she said it will not?
That I think, I don't want to indict.
Do you recall that?
Yes, I recall.
Yes.
But Shamba system or grazing or farming in forest by communities around under the Community Forest Association, which is in law, is about management, is about coexistence. We cannot regenerate, we cannot reforest, we cannot protect our forest if we leave the communities in our forest service. Karura Forest, the way you see it, the way it's managed, is run by Community Forest Association, and they're doing a very good work. Noise pollution.
Do you consider allowing that kind of engagement in plantation forests and not natural forests?
Yes, yes, because we have got 150,000 hectares of plantation forest, which now we have put proper transparency and integrity measures and tendering system, unlike the old system where there was allocation by the big people in government. I think I totally agree with you. Community Forest Association, community living around must be given an opportunity, particularly where even a plantation has been removed, for them, as we plant, for them to plant and for them to farm. In fact, farming can be well done under the plantation, Mr. Speaker. Coming to noise pollution, Mr. Speaker, is another serious thing. But again, it's a devolved function. It's a county function. They have no capacity. All they do is they give license to bus, they give license to clubs, and they don't choose which neighborhood. There are people who have got sick people in their homes. There are people who have children who are doing homework. There are people who want to sleep early. But today you'll find bars and clubs in the residential area. Mr. Speaker, we will not leave that to county governments. We will enforce it. NEMA will enforce it. We will not allow noise pollution to be brought back. So noise pollution is key, and we are going to deal with it, but it's a default function. I think, Honorable Mayor, I must say I have discussed about the waste management.
Let's go to Gikaria.
Waste management I have done. Reforestation, we are doing very well with the 15 billion tree planting program that we have.
Gikaria.
Thank you, Chair. I've really taken note, being a chair of the Environment and Forestry Committee, the departmental committee, just for purposes of future reference on what the nominee is saying. But, Honorable Chair, I have two issues. One is about the 15 billion trees, a very ambitious program. But the scientists and a few of the experts are also arguing in terms of forest fires. Assuming we have the 15 billion trees, and only half of that, God forbid, catches fire. So what are the plans that the nominee will take into consideration when he will be, if nominated? What plans do you have to address forest fires? Secondly, and I don't want to belabor on the pollution that has been spoken about, Honorable Chair, most of our schools and other institutions from the colonial times have been using asbestos for purposes of roofing. And asbestos over the time have been a cause of cancer and environmental pollution. Maybe what plans are there for the nominee to address the use of asbestos in, that are in our schools, health institutions, and so many other places. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thanks, Speaker. Mine to begin with is, Speaker, I was looking at the resume or the CV of the nominee, and the CV has given a lot of hope to many Kenyans, professionals, that it's not only that you must come from Nairobi University that you can be nominated as a minister.
Which one is Nairobi University?
Almost every nominee,
it's
Honorable
called
Speaker.
The University of Nairobi. It's not Nairobi University.
Honorable Speaker, I thank you and I respect. I'll go your direction, but I will call it Nairobi University or University of Nairobi. But almost every nominee, Honorable Speaker, and I think this is good for record, for future, that people who have been to other universities, Moi University, Kenyatta University, all the people, Honorable Speaker, that I have seen, is only Nairobi University, Nairobi University, almost everybody.
That's
until when I was saying...
Kindiki came from Moi University.
It's only one. It's actually a rare species. With this one, there are only two. Everybody else, Honorable Speaker, and I think it's good for record, that other universities, graduates from other universities, are qualified to become also nominees of ministers and even ahead of. It should not be Nairobi University. What about Kenyatta University? What about Moi University? And so on and so forth. I thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I will use the questions asked by other members to judge the suitability of the candidate. I thank you, Speaker.
Mine is very brief. Honorable...
You have any questions or don't answer?
Honorable Duale is telling us to plant trees, but yet Kenya Power on the other side is busy felling trees. There's a trend in this country that Kenya Power has decided that it is actually going to bring down trees. Nairobi is awash with very hoary situation of trees that have been felled by Kenya Power very recklessly, some very old indigenous trees. Honorable Duale, what will you do so that this cross purpose by government is immediately stopped? Number two is the Mau forest. The Mau ecosystem has become a problem, the situation. There's a lot of the human activity, and it is because of settlement of people living around Mau forest. What will you do to make sure that the people who've been moved out of Mau forest are resettled?
Yes, go ahead, nominee.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me start with the asbestos. Mr. Speaker, asbestos is a serious matter. Asbestos produces something called fiber that leads to lung cancer. And Mr. Speaker, we have mapped out, the ministry has mapped out, NEMA has mapped out 4 ministries who their institutions still have asbestos since independence. The Ministry of Defense, if you go to our barracks in Lanet and everywhere, Ministry of Interior, Ministry of Education, many schools, and Ministry of Lands and Housing.
And churches.
I'm just first talking for government.
Yes.
The Speaker, we have given, and health, we have given government entities until, if you approve me, December 2024, they must remove. And NEMA has put in place a program on how to dispose those asbestos. We expect county governments to give us land, field. Secondly, and more important, Mr. Speaker, now that we come to churches and other now individual private citizens, within the next 3 months, if this committee approves me, we will also do an audit and map the whole country where asbestos roof is still in place. It's a dangerous thing, it's a threat to our health, and it is a cause of lung cancer, Mr. Speaker. I think on the 15 billion, Honorable Gikaria, it is not overambitious. We have to do it, and that's why the people of Kenya in their own wisdom, have preserved environment in the preamble of the Constitution, in articles of the Constitution, whether we like it or not, in our own homes, in our farms, in the roads. Each and every citizen must take a responsibility of planting and trees and be part and parcel of this regeneration, reforestation, tree planting, increasing our tree cover, increasing our forest cover, and be at par with our neighbor Ethiopia. Honorable Koech, I agree with you. They cut my trees. And when I went home, the speaker, I asked, but the lines were just too thin. They should have cut only a branch. Yes. But Mr. Speaker, I think we are lacking, and we are going to introduce, if you allow me, if you approve me, I want to introduce something called urban forestry planning and urban green spaces. As we sit here, there's no even stakeholder. This Ministry of Forestry and KPLC and the people who are in the road agencies and others, there is nothing called urban forestry planning. We must plan for our green spaces in urban cities. We must plan for our trees in urban cities. Every citizen plants trees. They buy from they have seen on the road, and then an entity called Kenya Power Lighting cannot. Speaker, I will introduce what is happening in India. In India, you can't cut a tree, even in your own homestead, before you plant another one. You need to go and get a permit. You say, I am going to cut a tree in my house, but I'm going to replace, and I have planted it, and you show evidence. Secondly, even if you have half an acre in India, you must tell the planners, the county, that 20% of my compound is for tree planting, is for forest.
Nominee.
And yes, so I think those are the
We were with you in this parliament when we passed the Forest Act. And among the salient features was that each and every owner of land in Kenya, both private and public, must plant a minimum of 10% of that land with trees. You remember? Yes. How are you going to enforce that?
Give me the job. I will. I'm not reinventing the wheel.
It's not unique to India.
Yeah.
We have it in our statutes.
Yeah. India, in fact, the speaker is 30%, but we start with 10%.
Ours was 10%.
Yes, but Honorable Koech, I want to categorically tell you that if this House approves me, the first meeting that we are going to have with the KPLC, with the road agencies, with the other people who provide social amenity facilities, that they cannot come and cut trees, anyhowly, without due regard to the law. No, on Mau Forest. Mau Forest, so Speaker, Mau Forest, you know the history of Mau Forest. It has consumed people politically. And I don't want, because I will not be, I'm not in politics, but it has consumed many people. But I want to urge my colleague, and I'll sit with the communities around that place, because even today, the biggest problem we have is Mau Forest, where a lot of illegal grazing is taking place, and that illegal grazing is taking place by very powerful people who are in position. It's not the ordinary citizens. But still, we will use the Community Forest Association provided in law on how we manage Mau. We have fenced a greater part of Mau, and we will fence, once we get resources, the other part. Fencing is the way to go to conserve our forest, Mr. Speaker and members.
Naisula.
Thank you, Chairman. So listening and having interacted in the National Assembly as our majority leader then, it will be important to know your position or what you think about public servants engaging in politics, whether actively in what you say, in what you do. What is your thought on that, including public servants participating in Harambees? I would like to know what your position is on that is. so that we know whether if someone wants to be a public servant, then you be a public servant. If you want to be a politician, you go back to politics. And I want to put it to you on the same breath, and even to Kenyans who are watching, that the beauty of vetting is not only to find the nominees to be suitable, but also to hold you to account in case we find you suitable and other nominees as a country and as a parliament. And on that, because you have said you have warned illegal forests, land encroachers, you will revoke titles on top state officials who are holding. It's actually now on 411. You can be sure Kenyans will hold you to account, because you know there's something that always follows you on that Al-Shabaab list to date. So just know that even this will follow you. I'm just saying that this will also follow you if we find you suitable. But on matters environment, very quickly, while sustainable logging may be healthy for forests, how will you ensure the ban on protected indigenous trees is enforced and that close monitoring is allowed during logging? Because the Kenya Forest Service only devised a plan for access, control, monitoring, and reporting actual harvesting. However, there is no established framework and procedure to monitor, verify, and audit millers' compliance with licenses and permits